just start by introducing yourself?
Hello, my name is Mary Ellen Powers, and I'm Nomie's friend. And yeah, I'm here to be vulnerable. Vulnerable and open.
Awesome. Maybe we can carry on with the conversation that we had started earlier.
Sure.
Yeah, so do you want to just maybe highlight what we were just talking about?
Yes. So I think, especially when it comes to narcissism, it's not a term or anything that I'm necessarily familiar with, at least very familiar with. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's hard to actually pinpoint that out in my life. But, as you speak of some of the characteristics that describe narcissism, I can definitely pinpoint different people or even myself that can have those traits.
Right. But you were speaking about how your parents' divorce had some sort of effect. Are you comfortable speaking about
Totally.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I wasn't sure exactly where you wanted me to go.
Yeah. Okay. So can you just explain maybe how that affected you and maybe what you kind of notice now that's a reflection of, know, that?
Sure, yeah. So my parents got divorced when I was in second grade, and unfortunately it didn't end. It wasn't a clean divorce, but instead, as I'm 28 years old, it's something that they're still fighting over when it comes to especially money and child support and those types of things. And so throughout middle school and high school and really even college and afterwards, I was put in the middle a lot.
Right.
I had to go to court to testify, which was really uncomfortable. I had to have a lawyer assigned to me to represent me when I was not available at school and in college. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it was just a lot of selfishness that came from my parents. I don't blame them for that. I think that's very natural to want to be right, and to win the fight. But it tore me apart, and I know that it tore my siblings apart. But that also brought us together, which I am grateful for. It sucks that is what happened, but I think that now I have a lot of patience and understanding for relationships, and I try to take a step back and understand more clearly, disagreements or misunderstandings, and try to communicate to the best of my abilities. I wouldn't say I'm a pro at any of those things, but I try my best, and I'm learning. And I think that I don't know what I think. I'm just trying to continue on.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe can you tell me how it sort of affected you? What sort of feelings you were feeling when you were watching that whole, situation play out?
Yeah. I think as a kid I had a lot of hate for my parents because of it.
But what underlying feelings were there? Because, when you're hate is more of anger, and anger in my personal opinion is kind of a secondary feeling.
Yeah. So
there's always something beneath that.
There's always
hurt or disappointment or something of that nature. So what would you say you were feeling?
I think a lot of things, especially as a middle schooler and high schooler, and hearing my parents talk negatively about each other, these people that I thought were superheroes, as a kid, it's that's who you look up to, but then to have them trash talk each other and put each other down, it made me feel like my world was crumbling, like I didn't know who to trust anymore, who was I supposed to talk to, who can understand the situation that I'm in, because none of my friends were going through anything like it. At least not. I called it dirty divorce. I had some friends that got divorced, but it seemed like it was no big deal for them. So I think it was a lot of disappointment of my parents, because they hated each other at that point, or at least that's what I thought. I wondered if it was my fault. So it was this should I feel guilty for this? Is this because of me? I'm the youngest of 6 kids. You know, they were happy before they had me. Like, what did I do wrong? So just wondering if it was my fault. And it's just kind of a scary thing to navigate when you're young. And then and then after that, to see them still fighting, it more than anything, it just breaks my heart. It brings a lot of sadness to me to see that almost 20 years later, they're still arguing essentially over my child support. So again, it brings this feeling of guilt of, was this my fault? Why did I move out of my mom's house and into my dad's, and now my dad is suing my mom for all this money? It's like, oh wow, like if I wouldn't have made that move, maybe this wouldn't have ever happened. And it's like, my mom holds it over my head and my dad holds it over my head, and it's like, man, I'm almost 30 years old. It's like, can't we just say this is over and water under the bridge and move on and be adults? And so sometimes it breaks my heart, to know that even this past Christmas, my mom and I had a fight just over things that happened when I was in high school. Like, come on, I was a kid. But I think because there's so much tension still and distrust and selfishness to win this battle, I think that everyone's still holding on to so much fear and hate and anger and it's just it's not healthy. And I wish I could just abracadabra make everything better in my family. But I know I kind of rambled. A lot of emotions.
That's okay. So maybe what sort of family dynamics did you notice?
Sure. Like in the past or now as I've grown up and how our family's changed? In the past and now. Yeah, being the youngest of 6, I definitely grew up in a little bit of a different household than like my older siblings did. I was young, I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, second grade when my parents first separated. So I didn't feel a huge shift from them being together to them being separated because I was so young. But I felt that as this separation progressed, or as time progressed and they were separated, that it was like they went from an equal force that was there to help us and motivate and encourage and discipline to like, well, these are my rules and these are my rules and you have to follow my rules if you're in my house, and if you don't follow my rules in my house, then I'm going to tell your mother. Or it wasn't even that, but it was just like, not necessarily that they're gonna tell on each other, but it was power dynamics shifting. My mom had to take a lot more responsibility to not only be like stay-at-home mom and raise kids, but also how am I going to support this family? And then my dad, he was working, but in and out of work. And so his role went kind of to almost wanting to be cool dad. And like, there's no rules at my house. So it wasn't so much that they each had their rules, but my mom got really, really strict. And my dad became this like chilled out, well, you can have friends over to my house. Or like, oh, you're grounded from your mom's. Well, hey. And then it was really interesting because then once I kind of went over to my dad's side and moved out because my mom had all these rules that were so strict, and I know that she was trying to be good and helpful and raise a good child with good morals, but I was like, Mom, I'm always grounded. I can't be grounded anymore. This is not fair. And so of course I'm like, Dad, maybe no rules. I should go there. Exactly. I have so much more freedom. And then to see this total reverse where my mom is now like, I'll give you a car if you move back in.
Right.
I'll pay for your gas. You know, and it's like, like, man, I know that you're very strict and that you can be like sometimes a control Nazi, it feels like.
Yeah.
But man, it'd be nice to
have a car and not pay for the gas.
Yeah. My gas and my insurance and all, you know, my cell phone bill, these are all really expensive things that I have to pay for as a 15-year-old because my dad is unwilling or cannot support that.
Right.
So it's like, you know, so it was interesting because I think they each kind of tried to get me onto their side, both with sweetness and like bribes, but also through like trash talking the other person, saying, oh, well, your mother this, that, and the other, and you know, my mom, oh, well, your father, you know, he mistreated me and this, that, and the other, and it's like, to this day, I don't even know the root reason why they got divorced. Right. Because I don't feel that I can get a straight answer out of either of them. That breaks my heart.
Yeah, how did that sort of make you feel, that whole sort of pulling you this way and that way and, you know, trash talking each other and all that? Because, I mean, like you said, you looked at them like your superheroes, as every child does, you know, with their parents. So them kind of behaving that way, how did that look to you? What were you thinking? What were you feeling?
Yeah, I think confusion is a big part of it. And then, you know, I mentioned like a distrust, not knowing whether or not I can believe anything. Because, you know, my dad would say one thing and my mom would contradict it and vice versa. Right. So I would ask a question and I just wouldn't even know what the truth was. Right. So I think in a way it did lead me to look for different sources of information. Some of that being my brothers and sister. I'm very grateful to have 4 awesome brothers and an amazing sister, and they're so good. Yeah. But also, you know, through friendships and you know, maybe those friendships weren't always the healthiest. Yeah. Because I was young and vulnerable and just didn't really know what to do. I definitely spent, I mean, there was one friend in high school that I basically lived at her house. But it was great because like her parents were super chill and, you know, like we were in her bedroom and we could do anything, you know, it was kind of our world in her room. And so it was nice to have that freedom when I felt like I had 2 overbearing umbrella parents. Right. I just wanted to escape. I mean, yeah, it led to a lot of tears in high school. And like, which is so funny because my elementary school friends never saw me cry. Like I was the tough girl. Right. I don't cry in front of people. And then, you know, by middle school and high school, it's just like so many emotions and so overwhelming that what can you do? You have to let it out somehow. Right. Yeah. How do you feel like that kind of affected your behavior? How did it affect shaped your behavior? Sure. I try to be like, it didn't. I am stronger than that. Right, yeah. But no, of course it did. I think I wasn't ever one who was like trying to get attention necessarily. But I wanted to be cool. And I think that's every kid, but part of me just really wanted to fit in somewhere because I didn't feel like I fit in at home. And so in high school, I was constantly like, I didn't have good friends in high school. I had a couple, and they're awesome friends that I still talk to today. Right. But like, of my graduating class of 149 all girls, I don't really talk to any of them. The only girls I talked to were ones that I did sports with outside of school. And I think it was because I struggled with forming relationships, with trusting people, with opening up to people, with being vulnerable with people. And it was always very kind of superficial. And, you know, I didn't know how to fit in anywhere, which was hard. And then, you know, in college, it's like I started breaking out of that and learning. And, you know, by the end of college, it's like I had a tribe of great women and good friends that I felt like I could trust and rely on. And I'm really grateful for that. I got to be a part of a really good growth community throughout college. It was an internship that I did actually, but I think that through overcoming obstacles and overcoming fears and just going through challenges, you know, adversity, I was able to create a group of people that were doing the same thing with me and bond with them and open up with them and be vulnerable with them. Because I just didn't know how to do that when I was a kid. I still struggle with it sometimes, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
A lot of people do, but it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can be so uncomfortable.
Okay, and how would you say you what helped you to sort of start breaking out of your shell, start trusting other people, start being vulnerable, and you know,
good leaders, good.
Where did you get these from?
Yeah. So when I was, so my whole family did this really crazy internship in college where we sold educational books door to door.
Okay.
Yeah. And most people cannot do it.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. Most people cannot knock on doors for 80 hours a week for 13 weeks of a summer. Like they're either gonna quit or they're gonna fail. Exactly. And so my siblings had done this internship when they were in college. And I got a phone call one day from my brother Jimmy asking me if I wanted to jump into the internship. Yeah. And I didn't think I could because I was only a junior in high school. I was 17 at the time. Yeah. But I was like, sure, I can make good money. Yeah. Like, that sounds fun. And like, if I do really well, I get to go to an all-inclusive resort, like in the tropics. Like, sign me up. Yeah. Right. And in that, I feel very fortunate because my brother Jimmy was my manager. Okay. And and then my brother Jeffrey was also starting the internship for the first year with me. Okay. And so having the two of them, and then also just a really awesome roommate situation. I had four incredibly intelligent young women to live with. Right. That was just a safe zone where I felt like I could start to open up. Right. And it was superficial at first, and learning how to create those relationships. But I did that for 6 years, and so through my brothers being a part of it, and meeting so many motivated and hardworking and inspirational young people, helped me realize that it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what happened in your past. Like, make the best out of what you have. Right. And I still make mistakes. Of course. I'm human. I'm not the best.
But no such thing as perfection.
Yeah, but that was really good for me, and I'm really glad that I went through that, because that was a lot of highs and lows in my early 20s that I got to experience with a really supportive group of people. There were over 3,000 people every year that went through this internship, and then I got to have different experiences where like we would call them PCs, or personal conferences, where your manager and you, or me as a manager and my, what do you call it, my intern, my student, we would have really good, deep one-on-one conversations, and through those conversations I learned how to really get deep with people. Right. Yeah. And I definitely see that I thrive so much more in one-on-one conversations now than I do in groups. Right. Like, as soon as there's like 3, 4, 5 people, it's like, okay, like the vulnerability has ended and now it's superficial. I have a much easier time opening up to people in that kind of intimate setting. Yeah. So I'm grateful that I learned somewhere how to do it, but I'm no pro.
Right.
By any means.
Yeah. So you'd say that having a good support network is kind of what really, really helped with you sort of growing as a person. And,
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, man. Yes. Having a good group of people, that like-minded people that I knew I could trust, and I didn't feel like I was being lied to. I didn't feel like I was being deceived or told information just so that I'm on this person's side.
Right. Yeah.
I felt like I was actually being told good, truthful information to help me as a person grow and become the best person that I could be. And then that's really when I started reading like self-help books and just diving into like meditation and I was introduced to yoga before that, but I didn't really understand. It was just physical before that.
Okay.
It's like that really started me on my path towards enlightenment.
Yeah.
I've got a long way to go. But,
yeah, I mean, I feel like it is an ongoing process. You're never really finished.
No.
Or ever really at like a place where you're like, okay, good now, no more growing to do, no more introspection to do, whatever. I feel like it's not really a destination thing. It's more just a constant journey where you're going through highs and lows all the time.
Right.
And I mean, because I feel like, you're growing to a different level each time. So you're constantly learning new things and figuring shit out, all the damn time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day is a new challenge.
Right, yeah. But do you feel like there are still some things from those relationship dynamics that you kind of still, that maybe affect your behavior and the way that you look at things right now in relationships?
Yeah.
Or in your behavior.
Right, in my behavior. I mean, there are definitely like little things that I try to implement in my life that I learned. I mean, gosh, this is like 10 years ago that I started this internship. Just like listening skills and asking questions, things that I didn't necessarily understand, even simple things like eye contact.
Right.
I mean, these are really simple things that as a kid, I didn't have eye contact. I sure as hell didn't know how to shut up and listen. Still not my best strength.
Right.
Still. But, I think that I learned how to bite my tongue and listen and ask questions. I learned that sales is easy. So I was doing sales. I learned that sales is about listening and understanding, not about persuading and talking.
Yeah.
And that helped me so much in life because I realized that friendships aren't about talking and persuading, but they're about listening and understanding and getting to know someone.
Right.
So learning how to ask questions and maybe sometimes make other people feel uncomfortable, but be okay with that and be okay with that maybe awkward silence that occurs. Things that, I mean, I wish I could say my mom and dad taught me those things, but that was definitely through getting out of my comfort zone and selling things door to door. I think those are the biggest ones is just how to build relationships and how to connect with people. That was never and not only was I doing door-to-door sales, but I was recruiting students to come out and work with me.
Okay.
And so to get a 19 or 20-year-old kid to trust me and leave their summer plans, like no party, no fun, let's go work on the other side of America, and we're gonna live in some stranger's home and knock on doors, and you're gonna make money, and it's 100% commission. Not your average person wants to do that. When you get these like really sharp and really great people, it's like, okay, how do I persuade them? But I don't want to persuade them that this is a good opportunity for them. So it's asking them questions and helping them reveal why this will be helpful to them. And I think that's really powerful anywhere and everywhere in life. Is it's just seeking to understand rather than just speaking and hoping that they understand you.
For sure.
Because if you can understand them, you're gonna be able to get your message across a lot better. Communicate that better. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, that does. It does. And okay, what would you say you did learn from that whole experience of your parents? What did you actually?
What did I learn?
Yeah. What did you take from that?
Yeah. I think more than anything, it's kind of my fear is like creating a successful relationship. Like, I want to be married someday. I want to have kids.
Yeah.
I know my clock is ticking. But, you know, it's like, I learned how important it is to be picky. I see so many friends from my childhood, that have settled, that got knocked up, and they're like, oh, well, they'll just get married.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, God. I love you, but what are you thinking? You know?
Right.
Like, so it's just, it's realizing that I'd rather be alone than ever have to go through that hurt.
Right.
And that pain. Because my mom's and dad still feel so much pain from that, and I don't want to ever put anyone else through that.
Right.
So it's like being really, really picky with whoever it is that I'm going to settle down with. If that ever even happens, I don't know. Maybe I'll never find my
Prince Charming.
Yeah, my Mr. Right. I don't know.
Do you feel like maybe it has made you overly picky, or do you think it's at just the right level?
I think the Vietnamese people would say I'm overly picky. I think our neighbor across the street would say I'm overly picky. But I don't know, because it's like, I know that love is a choice, and
of course.
And you have to decide whether or not you're going to put the energy into a relationship. And part of that is really scary to me, because I know I'm selfish, and it's like, well, I need my energy, and I need to show myself love, and so to then share that with someone else, it's like there has to be some give and receive. So I don't know, has it made me more picky, or has it made me too picky? Maybe. I think it has a level of fear that's over the top of any relationship. Where it's like, okay, if I get stuck with this person somehow, like if for whatever reason, I'm stuck with you, it's like, you know, you have this underlying fear, and a fear of commitment of like, I mean, I've had a couple of longer term relationships, a year, a couple of years, but like that's it. Like I've had 2 like serious relationships, and then the rest have just kind of been like quick, short little, you know, flings or whatever. Because I think that it's hard to open up to someone, to be vulnerable, and for them to care about you and love you the way that you feel that you need that. And then end it if it's not working. That's so painful too.
It is.
You know? I'm just bad at relationships. I'm bad at like dating.
What do you feel like it is that you actually need and want in a relationship?
What do I need and want? I think it's this ability to be my own person, but feel supported while doing that. Right. And someone that, you know, is supportive and encouraging with whatever I want to do, whether that's, you know, creating a business or being a mom or being a yogi or I don't know, whatever I want to do. Traveling the world.
Right.
And I know that's not easy, because we as humans are selfish, so it can be really hard to
let someone be themselves in a relationship.
Yeah, because I mean, I know I'm totally guilty of it in my relationships, is you try to mold that person. Like, oh, well, you don't, whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, why don't you come to yoga class with me? Or, why don't you read this book? You know, it's just like you give these little like
nudges.
hints and nudges. But it's like, shouldn't you love that person for who they are and not want to change them?
Right.
So.
But I mean, at the same time, you know, as people, we kind of change all the time, and we're
Yeah.
constantly growing and learning, like we spoke about earlier. So, I mean, would you want somebody that's kind of stagnant
Of course
the
not.
whole time?
Of course
that's
not.
not willing or wanting to grow themselves.
That is huge. I want someone who has the same desire for growth as I do, and I think that's really hard because people do get really satisfied and
very comfortable.
Like I meet people all the time that are like, well, I've arrived. I'm teaching in Illinois. I followed my dreams.
Right.
And it's like, you're like 24.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like,
what do you mean you're done?
I don't get it.
Right.
You know? And so that is so silly to me. So yeah, it's being comfortable with who you are, but just not comfortable with or just this desire for growth, right? Not satisfied with where you are, right? Comfortable with who you are, but not satisfied with where you are, and so just I don't know. It's hard to find people that are on the same page. And respectful, you know?
Right.
I want a man who respects me for my opinions and my thoughts, because I'm a strong, independent woman. God damn it.
Yes.
I am such a strong, independent woman.
Yeah.
So I think that can be really hard, too, to find someone that has respect for that, wants you to be you, encourages you to grow, and and vice versa, and you guys communicate well. Oh gosh, communication.
Like a big one.
I hate arguing. I hate fights. And I think back to like how my parents' relationship has affected me. I think I avoid fights at all costs, and sometimes that means avoiding confrontation, which isn't always the healthiest. I just kind of tuck it inside if I'm unhappy, and sometimes it gets passive aggressive, because I just don't want an argument. I hate when people start yelling, and as a kid, again, like, I was young, so I don't remember that much of them fighting, but I vaguely do. And I don't
just remember it feeling really ugly and just shouting matches and things like that.
It's like you try to avoid it at all costs. You don't want to be in the room. You don't even want to be on the same floor. Like, how can I put earmuffs on and just pretend this isn't happening?
Disagreements aren't really meant to be argumentative. You can disagree and still have a conversation. And nobody's winning. You're just reaching common ground where you understand each other. Like you said, it's important to kind of approach disagreements with a goal of trying to understand each other and compromise.
Totally understand that.
Instead of, I want to and I want to be right, or I want my way. That's just not how a relationship can work, because it is two different people who are brought up two different ways, have two different opinions and perspectives and perceptions and everything. So there's no way you can always agree. But it does not have to be a fucking brutal match. You know what I mean?
Oh, and it breaks my heart when I hear screaming and yelling, just no matter who it is or where I am, it's just like, it shatters my heart, because I don't want anyone to deal with the pain that I dealt with of fighting and divorce and just unending nastiness. It's like, but that's totally why I look at my friends that are married and I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, you're so young. Like, how do we even know what we want yet? How can you settle on a life partner? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's so scary.
It is. But how do you deal with the fact that you do kind of tiptoe around issues to avoid arguments? How do you kind of deal with that? Because, I mean, like you said, it can eventually get passive aggressive or whatever it is. I mean, whenever you bottle things up inside, it's gonna come out somewhere, somehow, at the wrong time usually, and in a way that you don't really enjoy.
I think I've gotten better at when I feel it, expressing it. I wouldn't say I do it every time, but it's just when it comes to my mind, I try to bring it up delicately, like, hey, you guys, it's no big deal.
Right.
But I've been noticing da 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 da.
Right.
And so I try to be more chill when I bring it up, because if I'm in a bad place when I'm bringing up this frustration, it's gonna come out totally wrong.
Right.
And then I guess right now I feel very fortunate because here in Hanoi, I was stuck with 3 people in a house in quarantine for 3 or 4 months, Right. Of course we had disagreements, but I feel very fortunate that everyone that I'm stuck with was very receptive.
Right.
And open to understanding feelings and frustrations and discomforts. And so, if I brought something up and someone maybe had a contrary opinion, it was talked about right then and there. And, sometimes it got a little uncomfortable, maybe even a little bit heated. But it's like, usually there was someone else to be like, okay, let's go. Like a good Liesel to be like, let's chill. Yeah. It's going to be okay. Yeah. So yeah, getting out of my comfort zone and bringing it up when it's on my mind, and and trying to do it in a peaceful manner rather than an accusatory manner. Of course. I know that was something I really struggled with in college. Was kind of blaming someone for something or assuming that they did it, like
with ill intention maybe.
And kind of an intention to make them feel bad. And it was really not meant to be a conversation, but meant to be a backhanded comment.
Right.
That wasn't healthy for anyone. But I was like, at least it's off my chest.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's on their chest and they feel bad about it, and now there's this tension between us. So so it's also a big one is having conversations beforehand of like whenever it's possible, if you know that there's something that you dislike, before it can ever happen, bringing it up. I'm speaking of like a living situation,
right. Yeah.
Where if you get those pet peeves out of the way and it's like, hey, I really appreciate a clean kitchen, like, can you clean our dishes? Then it's like, when the dishes are not clean, it's like, hey guys, just a reminder. I know everyone's busy. Yeah. I am too. It's just, clean your dishes. Yeah. Clean your fucking dishes. Because for me, it's like, on the dishes thing, it's like, if I start cleaning someone else's dishes, as I'm cleaning their dishes, I'm building up this anger and this tension and this, and I'm like, and that's not healthy either. So it's like, I'd rather leave them and have the conversation rather than, trying to cover up this situation or ignore it or whatever. It's like, just put on my big girl pants and have that confrontation, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but as soon as you bring it up, gosh, it feels so much better when you just bring it up. And I've had to have a few of those serious ones in life where it's been like really like, you're talking to someone and you're like, just bring it up,
right.
You can do it. Mary Ellen, you have the strength, you have the courage, just ask the question, or like, say what's on your mind, because if you don't, you're gonna hate yourself for it tomorrow, and it feels so good when you do that,
right?
And it feels so bad when you don't, and you feel,
of course,
so cowardly when you don't, and then you feel guilty for being passive aggressive or for holding on to this frustration and this anger. Again, I'm no pro, but yeah, it's like, every time you have the confrontation and you feel better, it's like a reaffirmation that what you're doing is right. Because when you do the other thing, it's you're just building up negativity, and it's kind of a reaffirmation that you're wrong, but that's not how it feels. you don't want to be wrong. Not ever wrong. No. Yeah. Always right here.
For sure.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. So would you say that like you're in a happy place with yourself, and you know you are good with setting boundaries and kind of, you know, being consistent with upholding those boundaries in your relationships and interactions?
Try to be.
But like, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like you're in a good place?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in an overall good place. I think, you know, I've been just trying to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically, you know, getting good sleep, like little things make me feel so much better. If I get a good amount of sleep, if I do yoga or some type of physical activity, if I meditate, you know, I feel so much better.
Right.
If I eat food that feels good and not donuts, like definitely feel better. Corona, ate a lot of crap. Had a lot of days where I was feeling low, and it's just like, you know, you just can't stop eating the cookies or the donuts or the sweet whatever it is, deliciousness, and then you just feel so heavy and so sad and so guilty and so, you know, so like I actually have can I show you my little, well, you can't really see it, I'm gonna take it back. I have a little habits checklist.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you can see it very well. So it's like, you know, things to do in the morning, at home, at work, and then things, you know, for my health.
For your health,
And then, you know, I check it off each day, whether or not I'm doing it. And, you know, have a little tally at the bottom, so it's like, hey, I did better this week. You know, I did better this week than I did yesterday. And one of my habits checklist is that I did my habits checklist.
Right.
So it's like, just for doing it, I get a little check, you know?
Yes.
And I try to make sure that some of them are really, really easy, so that I can definitely get some checks.
Right.
And then some of them are like, man, I didn't do that one all week. You know, it's like, okay, that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Let's work on that next week, you know? And it's a nice way to be able to see my progress and my growth. So hold myself accountable.
Right.
Because it's always easy when someone else is, you know, if you have
On
a
your
teacher
back.
that's like, did you do your homework? It's like,
wow.
No. Right? Or yes, I did, because, you know, I didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't want this. Yeah.
Right? But when it's just up to you, like, you got to be an adult and like hold yourself accountable. It can be really, really hard, because it's really easy to make excuses. I'm the excuse queen. No matter what it is, it's just I can always make an excuse.
Right.
For eating too much, for not working out, for drinking too much, for for not making my bed. Whatever it is.
Yeah. So I think for sure, taking care of yourself.
Question.
For sure. I think taking care of yourself and holding yourself accountable, and like kind of being kind to yourself, and, you know, just showing yourself that love, that care, and all that. I think that's something that is very important with, you know, growing and, you know, getting closer to that goal of being happier and being more fulfilled in life.
It takes time.
It does.
Hopefully I'll get there.
Well, I mean, like we said, it's never really a get there situation. It's just like, I'm enjoying the journey. And just, I guess, sort of being grateful, like you say, like, you know, it's just keeping little steps, being, you know, patting yourself on the back for those little steps. Like, oh, I did this. That's great. I'm happy. I'm grateful.
Right.
You know,
I woke up before the sun went down.
Hey. Yeah.
Winning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So do you have any final things to say that you would like, I don't know, maybe like to say to someone who is maybe having a bit of a rough time with themselves, with their mental health, with whatever?
Sure. You know, I think more than anything, just keeping perspective is important. Nothing is ever as good as it seems, and nothing is ever as bad as it seems. You know, we go through the highs and lows of life, and that's normal, and everyone does. But remembering that, like, life goes on, it's gonna be okay. just, keep pushing through. I know that's not always what you want to hear, but it's like that's kind of what it is. It's like, go to sleep tonight, get a good night's rest, wake up tomorrow, and do your best.
Right.
Do your best and forget the rest.
Yeah.
And especially if you can find some type of purpose, if you can find somewhere to put energy and love and whatever that is, if it's an animal or if it's, doing like in this, I don't know if this is worldwide, like a big brother, big sister type of thing where you can like not adopt a kid, but have like a little kid that you mentor kind of thing, or doing a habits checklist, or having a good friend, like an accountability partner, but or reading good books. Honestly, when I've been in my worst places, one of my favorite books, I think I have it here in my messy room. So I hope I'm not ruining things. But I love this one. Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. It's falling apart. Yeah. This came with me across the world. But it's kind of like a workbook of how to be positive. And some people are like, well, I don't just want to have a positive mental attitude. Like, I have bad days too. And it's like, good.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and you should.
Yeah. But just don't revel in them.
Yeah. Yeah. Know that the bad days are gonna end, so are the good days. But let's try to make more good ones than bad ones.
For sure. Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
But some of my worst times when I've found a good book that connects with me, that just brings my energy and my attitude and my just feeling good about myself up. There's so many different tricks, techniques, strategies.
Yeah.
So it's just about finding what works for you, and maybe what works for you one year won't work the next year.
Right.
When you have that same low spot, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that means, hey, dive deeper, find what's working now, and keep on going, keep on keeping on.
Awesome. So. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
that was great.
I hope I got a message across that is helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed this. Yeah. Very fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
I'm like, still.
No, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
I don't ever know.